Hello and welcome to the Writer's Cabin. We've been talking about wilderness writing action in the wilderness. Um, you know, I think a big part of that is spending time in the woods, preferably not as a not as a prey. You want to be like when you go in the deep woods, you probably want to take a firearm, a gun of sufficient to provide self-defense. I mean, there's bears out there. There's mountain lions. There's packs of wolves. There's fugitives. There's even cartel members doing illegal things in remote areas. So the woods can be a dangerous place, but it does help to spend some time in the woods as a wilderness writer, because obvious reason. It's just more easy to write about something you're familiar with. Oftentimes, when I write, I don't necessarily even have to go I don't have to go into the woods to write about it. I pretty much grew up in the woods and was a lumberjack for 8 years. I had a wood cutting business. I spent a lot of time in the woods over an 8-year period. I just love the woods, and so it's kind of a natural environment for me. But I would say that research does help. I've written about the Amazon, where I did a lot of research and get a lot of different specific details about the flora and fauna that, let's say, a botanist would know more about than an ex-lumberjack. And so research can be very helpful. But I would say the most valuable tool for the writer is your imagination. Your imagination. You have to go back to the woods and be there and live the adventure in your mind. That's how I do it anyway. I enter the story. I'm going to read the first page or two here of my book, The Recruiter. It's years ago. This was a bestseller. I used to sell thousands of copies. All right. This is the prologue. Jungle Burma. When birds erupted from the kopok trees, Lydia knew she was in danger. She didn't move as thousands of pounding wings shook leaves and beat the sky. If it were midday, she would have attributed this to the boys spooking the birds with their slingshots, but it was early. The children of the village were asleep. Her pulse quickened, and her chest rose and fell in rapid breaths. Glancing at the bamboo shoots in her hand, she noticed they were shaking. Then the pulsating sound of the birds faded, and silence returned to the fog-soaked jungle. Stillness and peace floated through the vines once again, and she began to relax. She felt the soft kick of her unborn baby and put her hand to her stomach. The birds were just moving on to their next stop. She smiled as the sun created patterns on the dark green stalks of the bamboo bushes that surrounded her. She kneeled down to pick up another shoot. Snap. Lydia's body went rigid. She stared at the leaves that surrounded her. They looked like 1,000 slashing knife blades. If that sound was the Karen National Union soldiers, she would be safe. But they never came from that direction. Her fingers opened, and the bamboo shoots floated to the ground. As she ran toward the village, her foot caught on a branch and she tumbled to the thick mat of mulch. Because she was pregnant, she shrieked more from fear than pain. Fear that the baby might have been hurt. Fear that they would catch her. The Burmese government troops had no pity on women. She would be better off dead than to fall into their hands. She got up and looked down the river, hoping the noise of the rushing water had covered her cry. As she wiped away the wet leaves that stuck to her body, she saw movement in the jungle. A government junta soldier with an MA-1 automatic assault rifle appeared around the bend in the river. A shaft of sunlight pouring through a hole in the tree canopy illuminated him. Dressed in green fatigues, he walked slowly and cautiously. Another soldier appeared, also carrying an assault rifle. A third man followed. Lydia moved faster. She ran up along a river's edge at the base of a steep bank. As she ran, she kept her hands on her stomach as if she could soften the bumpy ride for her unborn child. The soldiers were out of sight now, and she moved as fast as possible, knowing that if she fell again, she was dead. "Don't worry, baby," she said. "We'll make it." Following the river as it snaked its way through the canyon, she looked ahead and saw the trail at the end. The trail ended at the waterfall that thrashed down a sheer granite wall. She was trapped. "No," Lydia whimpered. She had two options. She could backtrack, but if she did, she would run into the trackers. She turned to her only other option, the wall of sharp, jagged rocks that rose next to the waterfall. So there you go. There's just the first page and a half of The Recruiter. And there was an emphasis in that on two things, I would say. I would say on concrete details and on action. And on the emotion, the internal emotions and thoughts of the character. And just bringing all those together in a real story. I mean, that in my mind, that story is as real as if it happened. It's entirely a real story. So, yeah, there you go. That's just one example of wilderness writing. But yeah, I like to emphasize action and concrete detail. There you go. So another quick hit from the Writer's Cabin. Thanks for watching, and write with passion.